Good afternoon. Today we shall be discussing about new drug development and clinical trials. I shall be covering this topic under these headings: introduction, discovery phase, preclinical studies and clinical trials. So coming to the introduction, please remember that drug development process involves rigorous testing and optimization of the selected compounds to identify the drug that is most effective. Okay, the testing is done in the on the cells, that is in vitro, or on the animals, that is in vivo, to study the metabolism and to produce a product that is safe and has passed all regulatory requirements. Drug discovery and development has a long history and dates back to the early days of human civilizations. Example being your Chinese medicine. They came up with reserpine as an antihypertensive, and ephedrine they use it for bronchial asthma. And you all remember, you all know that Indian medicine we have it is also known as Ayurvedic medicine, and there are many herbal formulations which are used till date. Okay, and Sushruta, a physician in 4th century AD, described the use of henbane, that is Hyoscyamus niger, for as an antivenom for snake bites. So, foundation of current drug discovery and development largely is because of these individuals like Edward Jenner, who discovered vaccine against smallpox; William Withering, who introduced digitalis, an extract from plant foxglove; and John Hunter, who noted that scurvy was caused by the lack of vitamin C; and Louis Pasteur, who discovered the microorganism caused disease and he devised vaccination against rabies. So, how will you define a drug? According to WHO, can be defined as any substance or a product that is used or intended to be used to modify or to explore the physiological system or pathological states for the benefit of the recipient. The new drug is a substance of chemical or biological origin for which adequate data is not available for the regulatory authorities to judge its efficacy and safety of the proposed claim. Please remember that all the new drug development is done as per the guidelines laid down by Schedule Y of Drugs and Cosmetic Acts, and the recent amendment being in the year 2005. Stages in new drug development can be broadly classified into three, that is your stage 1 being your drug discovery phase, stage 2 being your preclinical phase, and stage 3 being your clinical development phase. In drug discovery, a candidate molecule or candidate molecules are chosen on the basis of their pharmacological properties, and it usually lasts for 2 to 5 years. Okay, then comes your preclinical phase. So when there is a promising molecule in the drug discovery phase, this molecule is tested. What type of test we do? We do pharmacokinetic parameters, pharmacodynamic studies, and toxicity testing, and all this are done on animals, not on humans. Okay, and it usually lasts for 1.5 to 2 years. Then comes your clinical development phase, so during which the selected compound is tested for its safety, efficacy, side effects, and potential dangers in volunteers and patients. So, for a drug to be marketed, which has therapeutic benefits, okay, it takes almost 16 years. Remember that, 16 years. Whether it is a drug or a vaccine, it usually takes 16 years to be marketed after obtaining all the regulatory approvals from drug regulatory authorities from the respective countries. So, in new drug development, it can be broadly classified into three stages, that is your drug discovery phase, preclinical development, and clinical development. This is just a pictogram of how one compound or a molecule enters the market which has therapeutic benefit. So in drug discovery phase, a molecule can be screened for a particular pharmacological activity. If almost 10,000 molecules are screened, only 250 enter the preclinical development phase and almost 5 enter the clinical development phase. And out of these 5 also, only one compound gets regulatory approval. Don't take it as a thumb rule that only 10,000 compounds are screened and then only 250 enter. So I'm just trying to tell you the gravity of extensive testing which is done before a drug enters the market. So let us talk about the stage 1, that is your drug discovery phase. So drug discovery is a process which aims at identifying a compound therapeutically useful in treating and curing a disease. So what we do in this phase is it involves an identification of the candidate. We identify a particular chemical molecule, synthesize it, characterize it, and we perform assays for therapeutic efficacy. So old methods of drug discovery, it is obsolete now. Like there was no study before using them. So crude plants, animal products, minerals were used to treat disease in India, China, and Egypt. And Greek physicians used iron against weakness, and horn of rhinoceros was used as a potent aphrodisiac. Okay, there were no studies conducted before the use of these drugs. Sometimes drug discovery could be by chance, that is serendipity. What do you mean by that? That is, sometimes a new use is discovered for an old drug, or its side effects find new therapeutic application. Like I've given you the example like lignocaine, which is a local anesthetic, and phenytoin, which is an anti-epileptic, are now used for its anti-arrhythmic property. Like in the same way, methotrexate, an anti-cancerous drug, is used for psoriasis. Okay, and now one more example would be cyclophosphamide and azathioprine. Both are cytotoxic drugs, but they are used to prevent tissue rejection and kidney transplant. The new approach in drug discovery would be your rational drug designing, and it mainly follows two strategies, that is your compound centered approach and target centered approach. And right now the drugs which are introduced in the market are mainly target centered approach. Okay, we'll talk about the steps involved in the target centered approach in the following subsequent slides. So in compound centered approach, promising agents can be obtained from your natural products like penicillin, paclitaxel, and cyclosporin. So compound centered designing, we can also obtain synthetic drugs, and this is done or mainly developed from the pharmacological data obtained from the structural activity relationship of an already established drug. Okay, so example, beta adrenoreceptor blocking drugs are based on propranolol structure, and many triptans are based on the structure of sumatriptan. This is compound centered drug designing. Coming to your target centered approach. So the second method of rational drug designing is your target centered approach. So a biochemical or a molecular target is used in search of a promising compound. Example, we all know that inhibition of ACE, that is angiotensin converting enzyme, blocks the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2 and hence lowers the blood pressure. So, your ACE inhibitors and angiotensin 2 receptors are useful as antihypertensives. So, whenever we talk about new drug development, we always have a target centered approach. So, previously, what we did was we had random screening, that is, a sort of blind hitting procedure where new chemical entities, maybe natural or synthetics, were subjected to a battery of pharmacological screening procedure designed to explore different types of biological activity. Please remember, these approaches were cumbersome, time consuming, expensive, and seemingly inefficient in providing fruitful results. Okay, so in this target centered approach, there are four steps. That is, first one being your target identification, second being your target validation, third being your lead discovery, and the fourth step being your lead optimization. So, in the first stage, drug target or targeted chemical moiety is identified. So, what do you mean by drug target or targeted chemical moiety? It is a specific binding site of a drug in vivo through which the drug exerts its action. Okay, so the specific drug target by have following characteristics, that is, the drug target is a biomolecule, normally a protein that could exist in isolated or complex modalities. Okay, the physiological responses triggered by the changes in this biomolecular structure play a major role in complex regulation and have therapeutic effect on pathological conditions. The next step after target identification is target validation. The target validation is a process by which the predicted molecular target is verified. Okay, so in target validation process includes 5 steps. Okay, that is discovering a biomolecule of interest, evaluating its potential as target, designing a bioassay to measure its biological activity, constructing a high throughput screening, and performing screening to find lead compounds. So the next step, that is your step 3, is to find lead compound, which is identified by cloning of the target protein. So that is your step 3. So after lead identification, the next step is your lead compound optimization, which involves in increasing the potency of the compound with respect to its selectivity, metabolic stability, pharmacokinetics, and toxicological effects on its selected target. So, after this, that is, after lead optimization, the drug enters into the stage of preclinical studies. Let me just summarize this whole process. So, in the first stage, the target, the drug target or the targeted chemical moiety is identified and then it is validated. The next step is to find a lead compound which is identified by cloning the target protein. After the lead is identified, the next step is lead compound optimization, which involves in increasing the potency of the compound with respect to selectivity, metabolic stability, pharmacokinetics, and toxicological effects on its selected target. After lead optimization, the drug enters the preclinical studies. So coming to preclinical evaluation phase. See, initially animal studies are performed to define the pharmacological profile of the lead compound. The aim of this preclinical evaluation phase is to satisfy all the requirements that are needed before a compound is considered to be fit to be tested on the first time humans. Okay, first the experiments are performed on rodents and then on larger animals. See, please remember, please remember that all these preclinical evaluation phase, they are conducted according to a standard operating code known as good laboratory practices. You can go through what are good laboratory practices, and they are we usually follow good laboratory practices to ensure there is reliability and reproducibility of the laboratory data, and it also minimizes human error. Please remember, out of the 10,000 new compounds which we have screened, the number of drugs which reach this preclinical evaluation is only around 10. Out of 10,000, only 10 are entitled for this preclinical evaluation phase, and preclinical evaluation phase usually require 1.5 to 2 years for completion. Okay, now coming to the objectives of these animal studies. The main objective is to find out its activity or about the toxicity, selectivity and specificity of to a certain receptor, mechanism of action by which it produces the therapeutic action, and drug metabolism. So why do we need preclinical evaluation or the animal study is to find out its pharmacological activity, toxicity, selectivity and specificity, mechanism of action, and drug metabolism. So when we talk about preclinical evaluation phase, these are the types of studies which are conducted. First being your pharmacodynamic study. So what do we do here? We find out the actions relevant to the proposed therapeutic use and also other effects of the lead compound, and they are studied on animals. So example I've given here is your antihypertensive activity of a lead compound is studied on dogs, cat or rat. What do we see in these studies? We administer the lead compound and find out whether there are changes in the systolic or diastolic blood pressure, and we also find out if there are any other effects like cardiac effects, like ionotropic effects, whether the cardiac output has reduced or increased, and what happens to the total peripheral resistance. So remember, once we do this activity, it is just a probable, you will not know the proper exact mechanism of action by which it is producing the antihypertensive effect. So what you do is, once you have a promising result, it can be further evaluated at a cellular level. When you talk about cellular level, the effects on vascular and other muscles can be evaluated in vitro on isolated arteries, veins, or heart or ileum of rat or guinea pig. So an evidence for its receptor activity can also be gathered in vitro cultured cells. So depending on the results, the studies can be further extended to molecular level. So molecular level, what do you find out? You find out affinity and selectivity by performing what? Receptor binding study. So what I told you, first you find out whether it has any changes in their systolic or diastolic blood pressure, and whether they do have any cardiac effects, like do they have any changes in inotropic or chronotropic effects, do they affect the cardiac output, do they affect the total peripheral resistance. Now once you find out all these effects and you have a promising result, you further evaluate this compound at a cellular level. Once you get a promising result at the cellular level, you can again evaluated at its molecular level, meaning affinity and selectivity. This is your pharmacodynamic study. Now coming to tests on isolated organs and bacterial culture. This is mainly done to perform or to detect specific activities such as anti-secretory and antibacterial. So the other test which can be done in your preclinical evaluation phase is that it would be your test on animal models of human diseases. So you can test the lead compound on the animal models of human disease. What do you mean by animal models of human disease? Animal models are those where where you have mimicked the human disease in an animal, and they're mainly genetically engineered. It could be genetically engineered or drug induced models. Okay, so why we did this? Why do we have this animal model? Previously it was used for the better understanding of a disease progression. Okay, any disease, we wanted to know how it progressed and what are the effects of this disease state. So we mimic these human diseases in animals to know more about the disease states itself. Now you can use these animal models to test your lead compounds. Okay, so you can test the lead compounds on animal models of human diseases. By doing this, we are reducing the risk of harming an actual human. So confirmatory tests and analogous activity. So a compound found active are taken up for detailed study by more elaborate tests which confirm and characterize the activities. Okay. Then you have mechanism of action. Like I previously mentioned in your pharmacodynamic studies, once you have elicited and it is shown to be or proven to be uh, a promising compound, then what you do is you go in the molecular cellular level, then molecular level, and attempts are made to find out the mechanism of action. Now coming to systemic pharmacology. Systemic pharmacology also, what you're trying to do is, irrespective of their primary action, irrespective of the primary action of that lead compound, you also try to find out the effects on the major organs such as your nervous system, cardiovascular system, respiratory, renal, GIT. All these things are elucidated of the lead compound. Then the next test would be your quantitative test. In quantitative tests, you see the dose response relationship. So the maximal effect and comparative potency and efficacy with the existing drug is ascertained. So whenever you have a promising compound, so previously you found out the useful activity of the compound. So once you have a promising drug or promising lead compound with the useful activity, now you also have to check for the possible adverse effects of this lead compound on major organ system. So that is why we perform these toxicological studies. So there are different types of toxicological studies. The first one being your acute toxicity studies. In your acute toxicity study, the main aim is to find out the acute dose that is lethal to 50% of the animals, and the organ toxicity is examined by histopathological studies. Please remember, there are two animal species which are used, and the dose which is given, one would be preferably oral and the other one would be parental. So in the two doses which are proposed, one should be the route proposed to be used in human beings. So the next toxicological study would be a subacute toxicity. So in acute toxicity, what we did was we found out the actual or the acute dose that is lethal to 50% of the animals. So we found out the LD50. But here in a subacute toxicity study, the main aim is to identify the target organ susceptible to the drug toxicity. So what do? Is we maintain this animal at maximum tolerated dose. We might use 3 doses here, but the maximum tolerated dose for a period of 1 to 3 months. Again, two types of animal species are used, one rodent and one non-rodent, and we allow the development of the pathological changes. So once we do that, we sacrifice the animal and we subject it to histopathological changes. Remember, again, in subacute toxicity studies, we again use two animal species. It could be one rodent and a non-rodent. Okay, then comes your chronic toxicity studies. It is similar to that of your subacute toxicity study. That is, you try to identify the organ susceptible to drug toxicity, but it is carried out for a longer period of time. So mainly this is done, it is important for a drug which is intended for chronic use in humans. So again, here in chronic toxicity study, two animal species is used, one rodent and one non-rodent, and the duration of the study may range from 1 year to 2 years, and this can be uh, run simultaneously with clinical trials to cut short the time factor. So remember that previously uh, they used to obtain toxicological data by conducting your acute, subacute and chronic toxicity study. But nowadays, drug regulatory authorities around the world ask for toxicological data on special toxicity studies. The special toxicity studies are your the effect on the reproductive function, teratogenicity, carcinogenicity, mutagenicity, and local toxicity. And they made it mandatory, all these toxicological data mandatory after an unfortunate episode of your thalidomide in the year 1961. So, thalidomide was used for morning sickness in pregnancy, and it led to more than 10,000 newborns congenitally deformed and crippled due to phocomelia. So, this is why the drug regulatory authorities around the world ask for the toxicological data on these special toxicity studies. So from my previous classes, you would have learnt about teratogenicity, carcinogenicity, mutagenicity, and even local toxicities. But here in the preclinical evaluation phase, all these tests are performed on two animal species. Okay, not on humans. These special toxicity studies are done on animals, and preferably two animal species, and all the toxicological data is found out and submitted to the drug regulatory authority. So after performing all the toxicological studies, uh, the next test the next kind of study which is done here is your pharmacokinetic studies. So when there is a promising test compound, it is subjected to pharmacokinetic studies in several species of animals like rats, dogs, sometimes monkeys. Okay, so what you do is you find out the absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion of the drug. And these studies, the pharmacokinetic studies, it is mainly done to establish the relative bioavailability and elimination T half, and this is estimated from your pharmacokinetic data. See, from your toxicological studies and your pharmacodynamic studies, from the data obtained, we were able to calculate the ED50 and LD50 of a test compound or a lead compound which is showing promising effects, right? So from this data we are able to calculate the therapeutic index. So from in previous class you would have learned about how to calculate and what is therapeutic index of a given drug. So apart from the safety index, we can also calculate other safety parameters like the maximum tolerated dose, no observable adverse effect level, and even also the no observable effect level. So from the data obtained, we can also find out the human equivalent dose. So human equivalent dose are determined in species similar to humans like monkeys to calculate the first in human dose which will be used in your phase 1 clinical trial. Please remember the first in human dose is usually 1/5 or 1/10 of human equivalent dose. So coming to the stage 3 of your drug development, that is your clinical trials. So it is a systemic study of new drug in human subjects to generate data for discovering and verifying the clinical claims or the pharmacological claims and adverse effects with an aim to determine the safety and efficacy of the drug in question. So the clinical trials are done under the guidance of good clinical practice, that is GCP, laid down by the International Conference of Harmonization and Declaration of Helsinki. So good clinical practice, it provides details about designing the trial, collection of data, recording of information, statistical analysis to be used, documentation and reporting the results of the clinical trial. So the main objective of this good clinical practice is protection of human rights in subjects in clinical trial and provide assurance of safety and efficacy of newly developed compounds. Please remember GCP, the main objective, protection of human rights of subjects in clinical trials and to provide assurance of safety and efficacy of newly developed compounds. When we talk about the history of clinical trials, please remember the first physician to have conducted controlled clinical trials in the modern era would be James Lind, and he, he developed the theory that citrus fruits cured scurvy. So, clinical trials are conducted mainly to discover or verify a new drug's pharmacodynamic actions, kinetics of the drug, therapeutic effects, mainly your which pertains to your efficacy, and adverse reaction, which pertains to your safety. Okay. When a new compound passes through the pharmacological screening, that is your preclinical phase, the manufacturer can or may file a investigational new drug application to the drug regulatory authority or drug control body of the respective country, that is drug regulation authority or drug control body. So in US it is your food and drug administration where you need to apply, whereas in India it is your drug controller general of India where the IND application must be filled in. So please remember, when a company in India wants to manufacture or import a new drug, it has to apply to seek permission from the licensing authority, that is your DCGI, that is Drug Controller General of India, by filing in the form 44, also submitting the data as given in Schedule Y of Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940 and 1940, amended in 2005. So the form 44, it is an application for permission to undertake clinical trial, manufacture, import of new drugs with the details of documents to be submitted along with the prescribed fees. To start off with the clinical trial, the manufacturer has to apply for a investigational new drug application with the drug regulatory authority, and this IND application must contain the chemical structure, source, its manufacturing data with details of purity, preclinical data of pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetics and toxicological studies. That is, you have to mention the ED50 and LD50 data, specification of the dosage form, detailed description of investigation protocol to be undertaken, name and qualification of each investigator and facilities available to them, and also there should be an agreement from the sponsors to submit annual progress report regularly. This is mainly done because clinical trials takes place for a duration of 5 to 7 years. So the drug regulatory authority expects the manufacturer or the investigator to provide them with annual progress of the new drug which is used in clinical trials. The IND application should also have contained the certificate of informed consent from human volunteers, and sponsors have to ensure that the copies of all information material has been supplied to each investigators. Only when approval is given by the regulatory body, that is Drug Controller General of India, in case of India, the drug can be administered to humans for clinical trial. So once you get approval from drug regulatory authority, we can start off with the clinical trials, and these clinical trials are classified into 5 phases, that is your phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4. Coming to phase 0 studies, it is also called as exploratory investigational new drug study or microdosing studies or first in human trials. So here it is a study of new drugs in microdoses to derive pharmacokinetic information in humans before undertaking the phase 1 study. Okay, what do you mean by microdoses? So the dose used in this phase 0 is in the range of 1/100th of the dose required to yield pharmacologic effect of the test substance. So the maximum dose which will be used in this phase 0 study would be less than equal to 100 microgram. So the main objective of this phase 0 study is to obtain the preliminary pharmacokinetic data, and it is designed to speed up the development of promising drugs. Remember, this phase has limited human exposure, so there are only 10 to 15 subjects involved in this or required to conduct this phase 0 study, that is exploratory investigational new drug study, and it has no therapeutic or diagnostic intent. Please remember, phase 0 study, it has no therapeutic and diagnostic intent. The purpose of phase 0 study is to assist in go versus no go decision making process of a drug's fate earlier in the development process using relevant human models instead of relying on sometimes inconsistent animal data, thus helping us to confirm the endpoints. See, please remember, phase 0 study, limited number of subjects, that is 10 to 15 is required, and it is completed usually within, it takes less than 6 months and has no therapeutic or diagnostic intent, and it is primarily designed to evaluate the pharmacodynamic and the pharmacokinetic properties of the selected investigational agents before initiating the traditional phase 1 clinical trial. So coming to phase 1, It is mainly aimed at determining a safe dose range in which a drug or a biologic can be administered, the method of absorption and distribution in the body, and possible toxicity. Please remember, many investigational new drugs are abandoned at this stage of testing because of problems with safety and toxicity. Phase 1 studies usually include pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic testing to establish the relationship between drug dose and the plasma concentration levels, as well as its toxic effects. Please remember, it is performed in a small number of healthy volunteers between 20 to 80, or with patients with specific disease such as cancer or AIDS. Here, phase 1 trial usually takes 9 to 18 months to complete and are conducted only in few locations, and these trials are non-blind or open label, meaning the investigator also knows about the drug which is being given to the patients, and even the patient is aware about the drug given to the given to him. So in phase 2 trial, the drug is studied for the first time in patients with target disease to determine its efficacy. The main purpose of phase 2 trial is to gather evidence that the drug has effects as suggested by the preclinical trials. So here we try to evaluate the safety and efficacy in targeted population. We also try to determine the minimum and maximum effective dose, that is your dose ranging study is also a component, and even your pharmacokinetic data is also a component of this phase 2 trial. The phase 2 trial can be again divided into phase 2A and phase 2B trial. Phase 2A trial is also called as a pilot study, and the main objective here is to focus on the dose response, frequency of dosing, and numerous other characteristics of safety and efficacy. Please remember, phase 2A trial is conducted on a small number of patients, that is up to 200, whereas your phase 2B trial is conducted on a larger number of patients, that is 200 to 400. Phase 2A again, it mainly focuses on the safety, that is it evaluates the adverse events mainly, okay, but in phase 2B trials it represents or it demonstrates the medicine efficacy. Medicine efficacy is evaluated in your phase 2B trial. So overall, the data focus in your phase 2 trial is dose response and tolerance, efficacy, and adverse event. See, coming to the single blind and double blind which I have mentioned, you should know single blind means the patient do not know which study group they are in. That is, the patient has no idea whether he is taking an experimental drug or a placebo. Whereas double blind means neither the patient nor the investigator know which study group the patients are in. This is mainly done to reduce bias. Please remember, phase 3 trials are large scale, multi centered, randomized, double blind trials in patients to further establish the safety and efficacy. So, phase 3 trials mainly it involves most extensive testing to fully assess the safety, efficacy, and drug dosage in large group of subjects with specific disease to be treated. Phase 3 trial is again, there are two subsets, 3A and 3B, but if you're interested you can go through. Please remember, after the phase 3 trials are completed, the sponsors can file a new drug application with the drug regulatory authority. Okay, so the new drug application usually contains thousands of pages and includes complete detailed monograph of the product, results of the trial, proposed registered name of the product, and package inserts. The data is reviewed by the drug control authority and even by a outside consultant. If the documentation is in compliance with the regulation, the drug regulatory authority can allow the drug to enter the market with new drug status. So, phase 4 studies or trials, it is mainly conducted after the drug is marketed. Okay, it is mainly done to provide additional details about the drug's efficacy or safety profile. So, in this phase 4 trial, different formulation, dosages, duration of treatment, drug interaction, and other drug comparison may be evaluated. New age group, races, and other types of patients can be studied in this phase 4 trial. So the main objective of this phase 4 trial is to monitor ongoing safety in large population and identify additional uses that might be approved by your drug regulatory authority. It helps in detection and definition of previously unknown or inadequately quantified adverse drug reaction. So there is no fixed duration as it's a surveillance phase, and performance of the drugs is monitored over several years. During the new drug status period, the manufacturer is expected to report any information about the drugs concerning its safety. Such periodic safety update report is to be submitted every 6 months for the first 2 years and then annually for the next 2 years. The drug remains in new drug status for several years until the drug control authority are confident about its release to unrestricted marketing. So here's the drug development timeline as we already discussed previously. So for a compound to come into the market, it takes almost 16 years. You can take a screenshot of this if you want. And coming to the conclusion, drug discovery and development process is a long and complicated process. Before any newly discovered drug is placed on the market, it must undergo extensive testing. Advances in understanding the human biology and disease are opening up exciting new possibilities for breakthrough medicine. At the same time, researchers face great challenges in understanding and applying these advances to the treatment of the disease. Thank you for your patience.